Hello, and welcome back to the show. Hollywood has been absolutely buzzing since we last spoke, and if you're here to know what the hell is going on with Will Smith and Chris Rock, well, stick around until the end. I'll be giving a full breakdown, but in the meantime, grab your coffee and get ready because we are jumping right into everything that went on in Hollywood over the past 2 weeks. So here's what you missed. Though it's been a hot minute since we chatted last, not a ton has happened in baby news, but there are a few headlines. For starters, it seems like Souja Boy did a little more than kissing through the phone. The 31-year-old musician is expecting a baby boy with hairstylist Jacqueline Martinez. And this is sweet because he said on social media this time last year that he has everything he could ever want except for a son. So, talk about manifestation there. And speaking of sons, the one we once knew as Wolf Webster is no longer going by that name. Just 6 weeks after giving birth and revealing the baby's name, Kylie Jenner and Travis Scott have decided that Wolf just doesn't fit their child. And I'm sure they've settled on a new name by now, but they're keeping it private. That is, until Mason Diss exposed the tea on TikTok. Actually, we'll likely find out the baby's new name on the Kardashians' new show, which drops soon on Hulu. But on the topic of television and movies, we have tons of news in that department. In the last episode, I talked about how excited I was that Dakota Johnson was set to star in the new Madam Webb movie. I didn't really think it could get better, but the Sony gods just keep giving and have announced this week that Dakota Johnson's co-star in the movie will be Euphoria's Sydney Sweeney. They did not announce who exactly she'll be playing, but definitely gave us another reason to watch the film. And after a 31-year run, Maury is officially ending. This comes after the host wanted to quit 6 years ago, but was reeled into another contract. Of this, he says, quote, "Even though I told them I was ready for assisted living out of loyalty to NBC Universal and more than 100 staff and crew members, Tracy Wilson, who's the EVP of NBC Universal Syndication Studios, and I agreed one more deal. I'm so proud of my relationship with NBC Universal and all who have worked on The Maury Show. But as I occasionally tell my guests, enough already." Unquote. Not sure that people are super sad about this show ending, but I just needed to mention it because the show is older than me, so it's definitely a victory there. But if you're worried that you won't know what to watch, I got you. Because season 4 is officially in production, and this season is going to follow Joe through Paris as he finds a brand new obsession. You might be thinking each season is pretty repetitive, and honestly, you'd be right, but we keep coming back to look at Penn Badgley time and time again. And finally, for this category, in super sad news, action icon Bruce Willis will be stepping away from acting for good. This was announced after he was diagnosed with aphasia, which is a disorder caused by brain damage that affects a person's ability to communicate and understand language. Variety gave us the inside scoop on his family's quote, which said, quote, "To Bruce's amazing supporters, as a family, we wanted to share that our beloved Bruce has been experiencing some health issues and has recently been diagnosed with aphasia, which is impacting his cognitive abilities. As a result of this, and with much consideration, Bruce is stepping away from his career that has meant so much to him. This is a really challenging time for our family, so we're appreciative of your continued love, compassion, and support. We're moving through this as a strong family unit and want to bring his fans in because we know how much it means to you, as you do to him. As Bruce always says, live it up, and together we plan on doing just that." Unquote. Good for Bruce and good for his family for spending time together. Everyone should be sending them love and support, and honestly watching The Fifth Element because it's a great movie. Switching gears a little bit into music news. After a string of very disturbing online posts that Kanye West created, his 2022 Grammy performance has officially been pulled and replaced by Lady Gaga. This news comes right after his ban for 24 hours on Facebook after violating their terms. Mostly this relates to the music video and lyrics for his new song Easy, where he kills Pete Davidson. It's not yet clear if he plans on attending the event even though he's not performing, but knowing his past behavior, I would honestly expect to see him there. In much more shocking news, Doja Cat has announced that she's officially quitting music after her upcoming tour is over. The tour, After Hours Till Dawn, is now labeled as her retirement tour. In a string of tweets, the rapper said, quote, "For those who are seeing me on the After Hours tour, I'm not bailing," she wrote. "But me not bailing doesn't mean my ass isn't going to disappear right after. I still got shit I gotta do, and a lot of y'all think because I do a picture it means I'm not out. Pic doesn't equal music, goofy. So yes, that means I have videos to film, I have performances to do, I have content to drop. So I'm popping it all out and then I'm dipping, but I ain't gone yet." Unquote. Maybe she'll have a change of heart, but only time will tell on that. Finally, a slightly music-related topic. Miley Cyrus's plane was recently struck by lightning in the sky and forced to emergency land. She was on her way to Paraguay to headline a music festival, but she was told that she can't fly due to weather. She then posted videos of lightning and then shared that the plane was actually hit by lightning in the sky, which caused them to do an emergency landing. But everyone that was on board is okay. This incident touched her in another way because though her life was saved that day, the life of her good friend was not. This takes us into our next headline, which is the unfortunate news that Foo Fighters drummer for 2 decades, Taylor Hawkins, has passed away, and he was only 50 years old. The band is currently out of town on tour, and Taylor called the hospital complaining of chest pains. When paramedics arrived, he was pronounced dead, and the cause of death has not officially been announced, but it was noted that 10 substances were found in him, including antidepressants and opioids. But of Taylor, the band said, quote, "His musical spirit and infectious laughter will live with all of us forever." And unfortunately, Taylor's not the only iconic musician that we've lost this week. The Wanted's frontman Tom Parker has passed away at age 33 after a long battle with brain cancer. He was diagnosed in October 2020 and the tumor was deemed inoperable. He leaves behind a wife, a 1-year-old, and a 2-year-old, so please send love to both of these families. There's really no easy transition from that news, but before we get into the Will Smith drama, I wanted to talk about some other fights that happened in Hollywood. Last week, Hayden Panettiere was thrown into the middle of a major fight that broke out between her boyfriend, Brian Hickerson, and another bar goer. Apparently, what happened was that Brian made a comment to the other man that he had left a poor tip to the waitress, and after they yelled at each other for a while, they took it outside and started swinging. Hayden was in the middle of this and got thrown to the ground. It's actually a very scary video to watch, so you can see the whole thing in my show notes. And bars really seem to be bringing out the worst in people because Ezra Miller also got into a situation. The Flash actor was arrested in Hawaii at a karaoke bar after he began yelling and being aggressive with other bargoers. He was released on a $500 bail, but that mugshot is definitely a looker. Okay, the moment you've all been waiting for. What the hell is going on with Will Smith? Well, it was the slap heard around the world when the actor got out of his seat last week during the Oscars to assault Chris Rock after he made a joke about Jada Pinkett Smith. And there's a lot that's really confusing and upsetting about this situation, but it starts with the fact that the joke was made and Will laughed. Then, a few seconds later, he rushed onto the stage, slapped the comedian, and then yelled obscenities from his seat. The telecast was cut during this time, but what followed was honestly even more weird. The fact that he was not asked to leave, regardless of what Chris Rock had said, is very sus. The fact that Chris was asked to continue and then announce the next winner is also wild, and the fact that Questlove, who won, though everyone was clearly still focused on what the hell just happened, comes up and hugs Will on his way up to the stage. Then after this, the question became, can Will actually win Best Actor after all of this? And the answer, for those who didn't watch, is yes. Shockingly, many from the crowd stood up and applauded him when he got on stage and gave a frickin' weird speech about how love can make you do weird things and compared himself to King Richard, the man he played in the movie. He also apologized to the Academy, asking them to please invite him back, but he didn't take time to apologize to Chris, the one he actually hit, or any of the actors who won awards that were overshadowed by Will's actions. After the show ended, he and Jada attended after parties and danced the night away as if it never happened. The next day, many new things came out. The Academy said that they were reviewing his actions and looking into suspending him, expelling him, and revoking his award. Only then did Will release a statement to Chris, which was an apology issued via social media. His statement said, quote, Violence in all of its forms is poisonous and destructive. My behavior at last night's Academy Awards was unacceptable and inexcusable. Jokes at my expense are part of the job, but jokes about Jada's medical condition was too much for me to bear, and I reacted emotionally. I would like to publicly apologize to you, Chris. I was out of line and I was wrong. I'm embarrassed, and my actions were not indicative of the man that I want to be. There's no place for violence in a world of love and kindness. I would like to apologize to the Academy, the producers of the show, and all attendees, everyone watching around the world. I'd like to apologize to the Williams family, my King Richard family. I deeply regret my behavior, which has stained what would have been an otherwise gorgeous journey for all of us. I'm a work in progress." Unquote. And this would be great if he said this after it happened, or even showed some shame right after, but instead he went to a party. But the timeline of the Academy having to threaten him before he actually really said anything is upsetting and makes his apology seem insincere. It seems like almost every celebrity has an opinion, and most of them think that this is crazy. Jim Carrey, in particular, said, quote, "I was sickened by the standing ovation. I felt like Hollywood was a spineless en masse. It really felt like, oh, it's a clear indication that we are not the cool club anymore." But when asked why he believed Chris was not suing, Jim said, "He doesn't want the hassle." He said, "I would have announced the next morning that I was suing Will for $200 million because that video is going to be there forever. The insult is going to last a very long time." He said it's okay to yell from the audience if you don't approve of a joke, but you don't have the right to get up on stage and smack anybody in the face because of their words. And when the interviewer said that maybe the situation escalated, Jim said it didn't escalate. It came from nowhere because Will has something going on inside of him that's frustrating him. I wish him the best, I really do. I don't have anything against Will Smith. He's done great things, but that's not a good moment. It casts a pall over everybody's shining moment, unquote. And honestly, I think Jim Carrey really did say it best. So we'll see what happens to Will from here, but so far we know that Netflix is halting production on his shows, and it's a really bad timing with his new show coming out, which is basically just a biopic of his life. So we'll see what happens. On to some good news. In the new season of Netflix's Umbrella Academy, Elliot Page's character will come out as trans. This is great because it's a real representation on a hugely popular show by a real trans actor. So we love to see that, and we can thank My Chemical Romance's Gerard Way for all of his great production. Something else we love to see are the court documents that were released this week, which show that a judge has officially freed Amanda Bynes from her conservatorship, which has been going since 2013. She was placed under it after a bipolar diagnosis, but has since done a ton of work and is on medication and is seeing a therapist, so congrats to her. That's it for this week's headlines. Don't forget you can read more details on each by clicking the link in my show notes. If you see any headlines you want covered or have thoughts on this week's, DM me on Instagram at MeganTheMorningPodcast, and I'll be back next week to catch you up on the latest pop culture news.